Meeting is now open pursuant to adjournment. The Honorable Jesse Wallace is present and presiding. All you having business before this commission, come forward and you shall be heard. God bless this great state, county, and nation. Mr. Hughes will lead us in prayer.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this wonderful, this beautiful day. We thank you for this great country and this great state. We thank you especially for this great county, that for those who live and work and help support it as we go. And I pray that you will be with this board as we will do the work that we need to do, and may it be in accordance with your will. Continue watching over us and caring for us, my prayer in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Wallace will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Wilson, at your convenience, please.
Mr. Coleman.
Here.
Mr. Daniel. Mr. Dellinger.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hall.
Here.
Ms. Hampton. Mr. Hooper.
Here.
Mr. Hughes.
Here.
Mr. Hunt.
Here.
Mr. Hart.
Here.
Mr. Mayberry.
Here.
Ms. Phillips. Here. Mr. Rochelle.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Wagner.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our last meeting. You have a copy of those before you. Give you a moment to review them, or I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Hurt.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hunt. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, citizens petition and grievances. Anyone in the audience like to address the commission at this time? Please come forward and state your name for the record.
Yes, now.
Please.
I'm Brooklyn Benjamin, and I'm one of the owners up at Music City Skydiving, the skydiving business up at the airport. And just wanted to come tonight. My business partner, Isaac, apologizes he can't be here. He's active duty military, and he's actually out in North Carolina hating his life in a military school right now. But we just wanted to thank you guys for your support and all of the help with the new hangar. We're officially in it and operating as the weather permits, and just really appreciate the support from all of y'all and everybody here in Humphreys County. We're going to have a ribbon cutting with the chamber and an open house on May 15th. I would love to have you guys come out, see what's going on out there. We're going to do some demonstration jumps. Some of the military from up at Fort Campbell that train with us will be jumping out there that week as well, and we would love to have y'all.
That's good. Thank you. I encourage all of you to go up there and take a look at that facility. It's pretty nice, and they've made a nice home. They got a good business, and we're proud to have them here in our area. Thank you. Next item on the agenda: receiving of committee reports, fiscal review, budget, personnel. Mr. Hughes.
We met on April the 6th at 4:30 with 6 members present. After the approval of the March minutes, the next item was the financial report for February. That was also approved. The first resolution, or the first item of business that we had, was the property disposal. Mr. Wallace presented base prices for the properties taken by the county after delinquent taxes sale. After reviewing the numbers, Mr. Wagner made a motion to set the base price at cost plus 10% on 4.47 years. After more discussion and explanation, this was voted on to send to the full commission. The first resolution that we had was the Highway Department transfer. Mr. Woods requested a transfer of funds of $10,000 within his budget for tires and tubes. After explanation and discussion, this was voted on to send to the full commission. The next resolution was debt policy. This resolution adopts a death policy for the county. This is a yearly matter, and after explanation and discussion, this was voted on to send to the full commission. The next resolution we had was jail refund. This resolution appropriates funds received by the jail of $819 to the appropriated line items. After discussion and explanation, this was voted on to send to the full commission. The next resolution is tourism grant. This resolution appropriates funds received of $500 from the Middle Tennessee Tourism Grant to the appropriate line items. After explanation and discussion, this was voted on to send to the full commission. The next resolution appropriates funds of $5,300 for the undesignated, from the undesignated funds for the payment on repairs to the HVAC unit in the county court clerk's office. After explanation and discussion, this was voted on to send to the full commission. The last item we had was this resolution is for the surplus and approval of sale of certain properties from the sheriff's department. After review of these items, it was voted on to send to the full commission. We adjourned at 4:55, and at this time I would like to mention again, we will have the budget meeting, next budget meeting on May the 4th at 9 o'clock in the morning, after which we will have a budget workshop and encourage all commissioners to attend if you can. Thank you.
Heard the report from Mr. Hughes. Any questions for him or his committee? Hearing none, we'll move on to Public Works and Safety. Mr. Hunt.
Yes, we called the Public Works and Safety meeting to order, March the 23rd, with 5 members present. After the approval of minutes, there was no business taken care of. We had a little small talk with the people who was here about some things that we appreciated the county people doing, and after that, we adjourned.
Heard the report from Mr. Hunt. Any questions for him or his committee? Hearing none, we'll move on to report and communication of the county executive. Commissioners, members of the audience, the end of this month marks the last day, scheduled day, of service as Economic Development Director for our friend John Henry Hedge. If there are no objections at this time, I'd like to yield part of my time to Mr. Hedge so that he might address this body. Hearing none, we'll suspend the rules and I'll turn the podium over to Mr. Hedge.
This is not going to take but about 3 hours.
Be here for yourself.
Thank you, and thank you. As a team, we have seen hundreds of millions of dollars invested in this county, resulting in hundreds and hundreds of jobs. I want you to stand up and the audience to stand up and congratulate you on what's been done. So, how did a little short, white-headed man end up in this position? Well, I got a story to tell. My grandfather was born and raised in Bakerville. He was a salesman. I guess that's where I get my sales attitude. And he traveled the South hawking his products. I've got a letter from him from Montgomery, Alabama. It was sent to my dad in 1912. And in that letter, he was talking about how he missed being home with my dad and how he looked forward to get back to Cherry Bottom. He owned a store. He was postmaster at Bakerville. But unfortunately, he was killed in 1916 racing cars down here at the old fairgrounds. My dad then helped my grandmother, two sisters. He went to UT Martin and Peabody and became a teacher. And he taught school at Bakerville. I came along in 1941. And we moved to Nashville, East Nashville, when I started the second grade. When you're growing up, there are things that you never know what's going to affect your life. When I was in junior high, I had a teacher that I had for 3 years in a row. We don't do that anymore. And this lady taught us young men how to shake hands, how to introduce your mom and dad, how to set a table, how to speak in public, how to ask a girl for a date, good manners, how to write a thank you note. She made an impression on me. Coaches also made an impression on me. Playing for a basketball championship against a team that had beaten us twice during the regular season. The day of the game, the coach called and said, look, 7 a.m., I want you at the gym at 8 o'clock. So we showed up, and he said, I have a plan. We're going to spread the guards, put the forwards in the corners, and drive to the basket. We never trailed, and we won the game. Lesson learned, think outside the box to be a winner. At East Senior, when I was a senior, we won the state track championship. Coach Barella, whom some of you may know, devised a better way to hand off the baton in the relays. We set 3 state relay records that night and won the state championship. Make changes to win. Team effort. My career pretty much speaks for itself. Bell South, 27 years in marketing. I retired in '91. purchased a retail tire store in Franklin. Elected to 3 terms of county commission. Elected chairman for 5 years. President of Williamson County Chamber of Commerce. Served on the board of directors of the Williamson County Hospital. Served on the planning commission. And developed fairways on Spencer Creek Golf Course. Then that fateful day arrived. My mom and dad had always taken the News Democrat. And lo and behold, there it was. An article about economic development in Humphreys County. I thought that would be something I would be interested in. 16 years later, hundreds of millions of dollars invested, creating hundreds of jobs. Have to give thanks to a lot of people and a lot of organizations. The Economic Development Council, Dwayne, excuse me, Humphreys County Industrial Board, State of Tennessee Economic and Community Development, Tennessee Economic Development Council, TVA, CSX, Humphreys County Utility District, MLAC, Middle Tennessee Industrial Development, Tax Assessor's Office and staff, the Sheriff, the Road Commissioner, Humphreys County Center for Higher Education, Nashville State, County Executive Wallace and his staff, and all the existing industry. I have served through 8 mayors, 2 1/4 county executives, and that quarter being John Lee Williams, 3 governors. Now let's talk about you. What leaders need to know, it's the process, the actions and activities to accomplish specific goals and objectives. Leadership, it's not a position, but the ability to offer service and take action. Community, understand what they want and need. As commissioners, be respectful, be consistent, make quality decisions, learn to interact with other people. Be a professional. Good is not good enough. Your cup is overflowing. Be thankful and drink from the saucer.
Mr. Hedge, thank you for those comments and that little trip down memory lane. I think that probably Ms. Phillips, Mr. Coleman can attest to the fact that there are some who have had the same teacher 2 and 3 years, not very often maybe. And on a serious note, I've had the pleasure of working with John Henry in my capacity as you have as a county commissioner. When I was with the telephone company, we consulted on several projects, but certainly upon assuming the role that I have here today, some nearly 5 years ago, John has been a real asset to me, and most people, I know that you all know, but the majority of people don't realize how much effort goes into his job and how many times at bat he must get up and take another swing time after time and time again in a very competitive environment. And I tell you, he brings a lot of tools to the game and has done an outstanding job. He's been a good ambassador to this county, and he's going to be tough to replace. I I don't envy the task that befalls the Economic Development Council as we speak, deliberate on trying to find a replacement for John. It's going to be a tough job, and there are a lot of challenges. We do have a full cup, and there are a lot of opportunities here, and we're gonna capitalize on them. But any perception of failure is misplaced. John Henry has been very successful. He's developed a great relationship with the state's economic development organization, and we benefit from that today, and we'll benefit from it tomorrow. So I take this opportunity to add my personal thanks and admiration to John Henry Hedge. Thank you, sir. And with that, I'll end my comments. And moving on to the resolutions, debt policy. As a requirement to 3-star, this resolution reaffirms our debt policy, which is identical to what has been passed and is on file today with the State Comptroller's Office. So I'll entertain a motion.
So be it.
I have a motion, Mr. Hunt. Second, Mr. Hooper. Any discussion or question about this? This is a requirement of 3-star that I sign a confirmation letter attesting to the fact that you all have reviewed the current debt policy prior to issuance of any debt. We don't plan to issue any debt in the next fiscal year, but you know, this covers that requirement. So I have a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Coleman,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dellinger,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hall,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hooper,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Hunt,
Yes.
Mr. Hurt,
Yes.
Mr. Mayberry,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Wagner.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next item, $819 jail refund. Commissioners, by law, there are certain items that of a security nature that are incumbent upon operation of a correction facility that must be purchased by a law enforcement agency. And during the course of the remodifications of the renovation of the jail, we had need for some of these security items, specifically some retrofitting of locks down there to make them compatible with the new locking system. We had paid this as part of the project, and this is a refund from the contract management company on those items.
Move to
I
approve.
have a motion, Mr. Hughes.
Second.
Second, Mr. Who was that?
Hall.
Mr. Hall. Discussion? This puts the money back in the sheriff's line item where it came from.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dellinger,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Hooper,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Hunt,
Yes.
Mr. Hurt,
Yes.
Mr. Mayberry,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Wagner.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Next item, $500 tourism refund as reported by Mr. Hughes, supplementation of the cost of tourism back in the line item for miscellaneous expenses. This is money in and out.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
A motion, Mr. Coleman. Second, Ms. Phillips. Discussion?
Mr. Coleman,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dellinger,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Hooper,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Hunt,
Yes.
Mr. Hurt,
Yes.
Mr. Mayberry,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Wagner.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next item, $5,300 HVAC unit, county court clerk's office. Unit was some 16 years old.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wagner, second by Mr. Hurt. Questions?
Mr. Coleman,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dellinger,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Hooper,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hunt,
Yes.
Mr. Hurt,
Yes.
Mr. Mayberry,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Wagner.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Commissioners, you have before you also a list of surplus property items from the Sheriff's Department. It's a declaration of those items prior to offering a public auction to be held on the 28th. Is that right? 18th. I knew that wasn't right. On the 18th of this month. Auction started 10 a.m. at the fairgrounds. A lot of items, including some confiscated weapons.
Yes.
Come one, come all.
Move to approve.
A motion, Mr. Hughes.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hunt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, the 2015-16 litter grant. This authorizes me to make application for the annual allowance from the State Department of Environment Conservation recycling grant that helps pay for our roadside pickup and recycling education program. Money in and out.
So move.
A motion, Mr. Hunt, second, Mr. Coleman. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion, objections? No, no? Any motions? Motion carries. Next item's notaries. Ms. Wilson?
We have 5 nominees for election this month. Marvin Lashley, Ashton Hicks, Carson Stevens, Diane Baker, and Cindy Smith.
You heard the list from Ms. Wilson.
Make a motion.
We have a motion, Mr. Rochelle.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hurt. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Other business. Commissioners would like to address the others.
I would just like to thank Sheriff Davis for opening up the jail for the open house. And if y'all haven't been there to see that in that facility, you need to go.
Yeah, it turned out pretty nice.
It did.
Got us out of a big expensive jam for the time being anyway. Anything else?
And I would like to, we did approve the litter grant to thank Sheriff Davis and the litter grant crew that they do an invaluable service to our county.
Yep, that's a good program. Anything else? I entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Hall.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hunt. All in favor say aye. Aye. Carries.